Good morning, Adelaide and the world. My name is Con, and this is episode 2 of season 2 of A Cuppa with a Conversationalist. And yes, as always, it's 7:30 and I have my latte. My guest this morning comes all the way from Galveston, Texas in the US of A. Big welcome to casting agent Debbie Andrews. How are you this morning, Debbie?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure, and it would be remiss of me. I didn't want you waiting there, so I want to go through some of your credits here, which are just unbelievable. And I've had a number of people say to me, "How did you find this lady?" And I said, "Well, actually, a lady by the name of Amanda Joy." Now, I don't know whether you know Amanda personally or you're just friends on phone.
I love Amanda. I love Amanda so much.
I've followed her, quite interestingly enough, for quite some time with what she does. And Amanda posted something along the lines of, "Hey, let me know, I don't know everybody here. Let me know what you do or whatever." And so This is the ensuing post that got my attention. Adoptive mum of 30-year-old identical twin girls, foster mum to 7 children, wrote and championed the transracial adoption bill that passed into law in the early 90s. You're a horse mum to over 24 rescued and rehabilitated horses, and you're a former agent to none other than, wait for it, folks, Matthew McConaughey, Channing Tatum, Charlize Theron, Hillary and Hayley Duff, Farah, Fawcett, Angelina, Jolie, and the list just goes on and on. And you've been involved in the casting of Captain Marvel and Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. Wow. What do you do in your spare time?
That is my spare time. That's it.
Goodness gracious.
Beach, as you see from my Facebook, I'm walking on the beach. Yeah. That's about it.
So obviously the ocean's not far from you?
No, just right across the street.
Okay. My geography of the US isn't great, even though I did live there for a few years. Debbie, first of all, if you don't mind, I just want to touch on the adoptive side. 7 children. How did that come about, and what led you to that?
Well, that's actually throughout the time I became a foster care parent. I never had them all at the same time. So, and the twins were the only resulting permanent adoption. I had sibling brothers that I had for quite some time, but never permanently adopted. So that was through a series of years, several years.
Okay. What led you to that?
Here.
What led you to that? What motivated you? What was the driving force?
Well, I was married at a very young age, and I was never able to conceive children.
Okay,
and so I just knew that I wanted to be a mother.
Yeah.
And I knew that there were children out there that needed mothers. There was children that needed families, and I had no prerequisite for health. I was a special needs foster care parent. So
goodness.
Health didn't matter, race didn't matter, gender didn't matter. Yeah. It was all just any child.
Goodness me. Yeah. Good on you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's go into the casting side of the business here. I'm intrigued. What got you into that? How did you don't just wake up one morning and go, "Hey, I want to go into casting"?
No. Actually, I got married really young, and prior to I was 17. So prior to that, I left for college, and I went to Botter Fashion College. Every young girl's dream, you're going to go away to fashion college. And I thought, I'm going to be a fashion designer. I'm going to be a famous fashion designer. What happened was I got there and I realized I had to actually draw and sew. And I could not do either one. I'm thinking, no, I just get in there and tell people what to do, and I become famous, and everybody knows my name, like Calvin Klein, and that's what I was going to do. I had no idea that I actually had to do the work myself. That's really sounds naive, but that's the truth. So I put on the brakes and said, wait a minute, I think I'm going to change my major. And I changed my major to fashion merchandising. So in doing that, we had a guest speaker that came to our college, and she happened to be Iman's agent. I didn't know that at the time. She comes in, and she's looking around the classroom, and she's giving us our little lecture on things to do in the industry and in the business. And I don't know why, as things happen the way they do in the universe, why she focused in on me and just said, there's really something about you. And I don't know if you've ever thought about working behind the scenes with models, actors, musicians. Is that something that sounds like would interest you? And I said, well, sure. I guess, I want to be a fashion designer, or I want to merchandise fashion or whatever, but I would think about that. She said, what are your plans after college? I said, I'm going to live in Houston. And she replied, I know somebody there that has an agency it's fairly new, just starting up. If you'd be interested in interviewing, I could get you an interview. And I said, sure. At that time, I'm still just thinking, oh, this is really pretty cool. So she sets up an interview for me, and I go to Houston and I interview with this company called Page Parks. Page Parks Center of Modeling was the name of it back in '84. And it was a pretty new startup modeling agency, modeling and acting. And I got in on the ground floor with them, and it was amazing. It was truly an amazing experience. It was just me being somewhere that the universe provided an amazing connection, because otherwise I don't know how I would have gotten in there. It's not an industry that's easy to just fall into or step into, as any of those are. Acting, modeling, and all of those things are just not easy to. You don't just go to school and then get a job in that industry. So it was just truly a gift that happened at quite a young age, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah,
that's how it happened.
As you said, you don't just wake up one morning and go, hey, I want to be a fashion designer or a model. Everything's pretty much got to line up, and the universe clearly, it was just, destiny for you without question.
It's something I would never have thought of. I thought I would be in merchandising, design somewhere, running runway fashion shows, things of that nature. I had no idea the depth that it would go to. And when I got immersed in it, I had no idea the depth that it was. The people that you talk about, the A-listers that you talk about, they were just people to me.
Sure.
They were just people that worked and I made money from and got jobs for. And, the first print job for McConaughey, things like that. Angelina Jolie, we get her a print job at JCPenney in Houston, Texas.
Wow.
That's how people started. This was before these people. This was in the 80s.
Yeah.
80s through the early 90s was really the height of my career. So I took some time off to be a full-time mom. And so a lot of these people were at the very beginning of their careers. They did soap operas, a lot of print ads.
Yeah.
We had offices in Dallas, Houston, New York City, Coral Gables, Florida, Los Angeles. And then we started doing basically what's known as brokering. So we would, other agencies, Ford, Wilhelmina, what have you, would send models to us, and we'd do local work, and vice versa. We'd send to them, and they would basically broker those jobs out.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to know and meet people like that.
Goodness me.
At that time, did I think that they were anything other than just really cool people that I was working with?
No.
That's all. Yeah, exactly.
And one of my questions that I've written down here is, you're casting, you're looking for somebody for a particular role, and there's obviously how many people say, oh, I want to be an actor, I want to be famous, I want to be this, I want to be that. How do you look at somebody and go, hey, they're right for that role? Or what are you looking for? Definitive characteristics, or what are you looking for? How do you distinguish?
That's a great question. And it's not necessarily me. It's the production company. It's the director. It's the filmmakers, the writers. They know the look that they want. They know the build that they want. They know down to details. So there's a lot of psychology involved. You don't even think about that part of it. You just think, I'm hiring a pretty face or a handsome guy or someone muscular or someone trim or someone with a certain ethnicity. But what you don't stop to think about is the psychology involved in the role of acting, where you literally have to become a different person. So Angelina Jolie is not Angelina Jolie in film. She becomes that character. So you have to know these people that you're working with, are they capable of disconnecting from
Wow.
who they are in actual life and taking on a role of another person. So everybody, my line and I've used this before in interviews, is everybody wants to be famous until it's time to be famous. I have more people that get frightened and run away than stick with it. I guess maybe it's the fear of failure. I'd rather not try it at all. I'd rather just say, oh, they picked me out, but then I decided I couldn't do it. I was too busy, than to actually go for it and succeed, or go for it and fail. So there's a really middle line there of most people drop out. Very few actually fight to get up there to that spot. So you got to break that down too. I got to be able to understand when I put a casting out, if I get 50 people, I got to start going like this. Who's really serious, first of all?
Yeah.
Who have I dealt with before that answers every single casting I have, that's never going to follow through? So those are the challenges that come with that. So we're not just looking for the type or the role. You're looking for the capability of the follow through. You're looking for the gumption, the psychology, the stability of someone to actually follow through with that, and go to the live interviews, to get past just saying, I'm interested.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more work that goes into it than just filling a type.
It is, and I never, obviously not having been involved in the industry, but you're right. It just follows. It makes sense. You know, the psychology of somebody. I mean, you've really got to be able to disconnect. And you look at, some of the, movies, TV series, and those people, they're in another world. They are completely disconnected from who they are in real life. Playing that role, and the ability to do that is unbelievable. Obviously, at the moment, there is a with cable and HBO and Fox and goodness knows whatever else. There is a plethora of TV shows, series. That's like you get bombarded on TV, shows that I've never even heard of. Is this really entertainment for the sake of entertainment? And the second part of that question is, there's obviously actors who are now getting work, and this isn't a slight on them, actors who are getting work because there's so many roles available that normally wouldn't get work, or is that being harsh?
So let me just touch on the whole. So say you purchase a product and it's great, and 2 or 3 years from now, they have to do something different to make it even greater, or people become bored. So with the Coca-Cola, they started adding flavors: vanilla, lime, orange, cherry. So the same with television. Okay, you can only do CSI for so long, NYPD for so long, or go way back to any of the other various television shows that we're on. Change needs to come to keep people interested. People's attention spans are much shorter now than they used to be. We're much more distracted. So we're creating these new shows, and primarily reality television shows. And I stuck my hand in that pot for reality television, and that came to kind of be one of my specialties. I would say 2016, 17, 18, I really started looking at that a little harder, because they were quicker, faster, easier for me to get people in, because they didn't really have to be actors. They weren't, A-list actors or professional actors per se. So that kind of answers that. We constantly need to be changed and stimulated as a population. Okay. And so all these shows are coming up in order to keep people's interest. You start with one cooking show, you end up with 15. You start with one do-it-yourself house flipping show, and look what happens. We have so many now, I can't keep track of them. I cannot keep track of which show I'm working on or what kind of person I'm looking for because there's so many. Just like the crime shows, you had one crime show, now you've got dozens of them. I'm not sure what your question was about the actors that are getting the roles. So
obviously I get the point where the audience needs to be continually stimulated, to maintain interest for a whole host of reasons. The second part of my question was, because of the volume of shows that are now available for the consumer, whether it's through major networks, cable services, or whatever. Are there actors who are getting acting roles just because there's so many shows, or is that being harsh on them?
The only way that I would be harsh on them is the reality people. They are getting shows because they generated enough interest on one reality show, and then they spawned another show from their fame on the reality show. So what people need to understand about reality television is it really pays nothing. There are literally shows that pay you nothing to be on the show. The pay is the outcome of what happens afterwards. You become famous on social media. People start following you. People start sponsoring you. And then someone goes, oh, hey, I thought about starting a show, another dating show. And they take the person from the one dating show and they start another dating show. So reality television payoff comes on the back end when you become famous from your reality television show.
Your 15 minutes of fame.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how I feel about that. That's the only ones I really kind of can say anything negative about, because they're really not that interesting of people, not to be mean, but it's just junk. It's just filler. It's just filler. I would say that the bigger stars don't really get involved in that kind of stuff. Some of them that have come and gone and maybe kind of waned a little bit, they step into the reality arena, and they start a dating show. Like as a married couple, they'll have a dating show together, and that maybe gets them a little more notoriety because they've kind of faded off into the background. That's really the only way that I see that. I don't think of any of my A-list people as I think they're working because they're really good.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Good at what they do. Yeah.
I guess it's a bit like sporting. Always sporting analogies. If you've got to field 5 teams, you've go from fielding 5 teams to 10 teams, and you've still got the same pool. The same pool of players. It's going to start getting pretty thin, and the talent pool is going to drop quite significantly. So it wasn't necessarily a slight on those actors. It was just more curiosity as to whether it was impacting that as well. But that's not the case. But it's not the case. Debbie, COVID, you guys in the US are obviously done it pretty tough. I get quite frustrated here in Australia on social media. We've got so many people who are critical of our government and goodness knows what else. And this isn't a political forum, but we're effectively COVID-free in Australia. The number of cases we have, I think you count them on one hand, and they're all in many hotels and whatever. And being an island obviously helps us. But with COVID in the US, I know I've got family there. It's really impacted them in different ways. How has it impacted your industry and indeed the entertainment side, whether it's movies or television shows?
Oh goodness, it's had a huge impact. And I don't know if you've noticed, because it depends on what you choose to watch. I don't have television. But so an example I can give you is the TV show Catfish, the TV show. So I'm going to go with some reality ones that I've been involved in. Catfish, 90 Day Fiance, Married at First Sight. I'm going to take Married at First Sight out of that because we didn't so much COVID with that one. Everything started going virtual. So Catfish is only interviewing people via Zoom. So they're hunting down on their computers instead of going and knocking on people's doors personally. It's all done on computer, because during COVID, production either shut down or you got real creative and figured out a way that you're going to create film and you're going to create content online where people can come in like you and I are talking. Yeah. And they created a lot of talk shows have been created. There's some great talk shows coming up out of this. Charles Maddox is an amazing producer that's got a few new talk shows out, some documentaries that have come out. There's a program, Real Men, Real Talk, that's amazing. All of these would be on primetime television if it weren't for COVID. Because of COVID, everybody's doing these things online, and I cannot wait to see them on syndicated channels, to be on television, to be with an audience again, and be be in that position, because that's the status that these types of shows deserve.
Yeah.
So even myself as an example, I was to be on a reality television show myself last year. And of course, we make all the arrangements. You sign the contracts. It goes through legal. There's great lengths that you go through, pages and pages of legal documents, lawyers on two sides making decisions that everything's clear and we're good to go. And COVID puts it off and puts it off and puts it off. So week by week by week of your life, you're hurrying up and waiting. And it's very, very stressful. So during this time, we lose people. We lose people because they say, I can't keep putting my life on hold for this movie role. I can't keep putting my life on hold to be an extra in your film or to appear on your reality TV show. And that's exactly what happened to me. I could not put my life on hold week by week by week. This went on for 6 months. And I finally said, I got to withdraw. Can I get out of my contract and not do this? And just move on with my life. And that's what I did. Gratefully, they let me out and didn't suffer any consequences. But so we did have some films released. Like I was involved in Red Notice that's come out this year, just released. And that was a big one with The Rock and so Dwayne Johnson and some really a lot of good people in it. But those things were filmed under COVID circumstances, which are excruciating. They were COVID testing consistently. They were quarantining actors. So if you were an extra on the show with 100 other people, you were all in one hotel. Your meals were eaten inside your hotel room. You had no social life. You were to stay in your hotel room unless you were on set. And if you left your room, you were to be masked at all times. The only times you were unmasked is when you were on film, when everybody else around you was completely masked. So the number of COVID tests that an actor can take is unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I've heard stories of daily COVID tests for people, and it's stressful. And that's where you either see people falling off or people hanging in there. But it's taken movies that may take a year or 2 years to create are going to be movies that are 3 and 4 years out now. They may not come out in 2021 at all.
Again, just as an aside, excuse me, with COVID at the moment, are you guys seeing some light at the end of the tunnel over there, particularly in your industry, or is it just because like some of the reports that we see, obviously media will dramatize and you'll watch what you want to watch.
Sure.
But are you seeing light at the end of the tunnel?
So Los Angeles. So Los Angeles is the primary hub that I'm working in, Los Angeles, and then also in Georgia and New York City. So Los Angeles has notified, okay, we're going to start shooting this week, and then literally shut it back down. Not even filmed a day and shut back down. Then they've opened up and they filmed a couple of days and they've shut back down again. So it is still not entirely open. They have struggled. The city of Los Angeles, in my opinion, the state of California, as far as film and television goes, has just been knocked down. It's been extremely difficult. So Atlanta, Georgia is a hotbed. There's tons of work there, lots of filming going on there. The Ozark, I'm involved in the show series Ozark. That films out of Atlanta, Georgia. So it's state to state different, if that makes sense. We're the United States, but the governor of every state here in the United States makes that decision as to what happens with being open. The state of Texas, we're open. Our mask mandate has been dropped. We're really allowed to do anything that we want to do. But we're not a great film hub. We're not making a ton of movies right here in Texas right now. Still, the bulk of it is in Los Angeles, and it's on hold. Or whatever they can do virtually is being done in that manner.
I understand.
Challenging.
I understand what you mean, like state by state, because even though we're obviously not as big in terms of numbers of states in Australia, it's exactly the same. So each premier here, as we call them, did exactly the same thing. They had, if they wanted their borders shut, they'd shut the borders. So it was basically their control. So I understand the challenges that you would face in that respect. Debbie, I just a couple more things before we wind up. I know you're a very, very busy lady. Just morbid curiosity. One of my biggest heroes, I have almost a man love for this guy, is Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think his story is just astronomical. You know, from his beginnings as a migrant to to, if it wasn't for your legislation in the US about him not being able to be president, I have absolutely no doubt he would have been one of your presidents.
Sure.
Have you had anything to do with him or any shows that he's been involved in?
No.
Oh, bummer.
No.
I thought you might be able to give me an intro. I was looking for an introduction.
Work on that for you, though. I'm going to take my notes right now.
Could you? Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll spell the name for you.
Now, Sylvester Stallone's a different story. His wife, Jennifer Flavin, is one of my dear friends. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She worked with me back in the modeling industry in the 80s as well.
Yeah.
I just love her dearly.
Wow. And again, some of like the names that you've worked with are just absolutely phenomenal, like legitimate bona fide A-listers. Do you have any contact with them still out of interest? Do you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so it's really curious because even on my Facebook page, they're there, but they may not be under the name that you would expect.
Yeah.
So it is funny to me at times that we converse back and forth really openly. But they're under the radar. They're not, Jennifer's not Jennifer Flavin on, friending people on Facebook and commenting, but she'll be very active on my page speaking to me. And I know and understand who I'm talking to, which that's a beautiful way to stay connected because I'm not going to just follow her Facebook page as a fan.
No.
That bores me.
Sure.
Absolutely. I know too much. She doesn't want me to do that. She doesn't want me on there.
She has to be nice to you.
Yeah. So the difference is people are people. We're all human. We're all approachable. But when you look at it from a fan perspective, you're like, oh my goodness. Nobody is, oh my goodness. They're just human beings. So, realistically, if you don't treat them like you're a fan, the reaction that you get is totally different. When you just wave and say hi from across a restaurant to a famous person, they wave back and say hi. But when you come up to their table and you interrupt,
have an autograph,
autograph and things, that happens so frequently that they get irritated and then they don't seem kind. And it's difficult to have a life like that. So those are the little tips that I give. I got a lot of what I call industry hacks. If people are interested in breaking into the industry, working in the industry, I give advice like that. Like I said, I'm retired. It's not that I don't charge for any of that. I just freely give it to people that are sincerely interested in being in the business that I'm in because I love it. It's done well for me. I've had a wonderful life. And I want to see that continued on. I want to see people in this industry that are good, that do good, don't fall to the drugs, the alcohol, the negative parts of this industry that are very strong out there. I never did that. I never fell into that. And I never will. That's not my thing. And I'd like to see a lot more people in the business that feel the same way.
Yeah. It's funny you saying, people, they're people at the end of the day. And if you treat them like people, I've had so many friends of mine and people on social media that follow me and have asked me the questions, how did you get this lady? I said, I asked her. I saw her post.
How easy it is to talk to Debbie.
Yeah,
I don't realize.
Yeah, I saw her post. I was fascinated by her. I asked the question, and Debbie was very polite in her response and said yes. It wasn't that hard. And they go, wow. So yeah, it's not that hard. That's
connection because I knew you through Amanda.
Of course.
So Amanda is safe, and I love her and know her and her family, and feel comfortable with our friendship. That anyone that she has in her circle of friends, you see what I'm saying? It's that circle,
absolutely,
and the circle of connectedness that goes on. That people reach out to each other, and if we would all just be so good about that, we'd be connected in every aspect of our lives. Whether we needed a plumber, or whether we needed advice on how to break into acting, or whether we needed to write a book, publish a book, sell our art, anything. As you see on my Facebook, I promote people's artwork. People make paintings of me, portraits, send me books that they've written, and I share that on my Facebook and my Instagram because those are beautiful things. And that's the way I think that we should all be. We're all just human, man.
I was going to say we all got the same color blood. We all bleed. Debbie, it's been an absolute delight having you on the show this morning or afternoon for you there in Galveston. I've had so much fun, and I know that our listeners and viewers will get a lot of value and a lot of entertainment out of our little chat. My guest this morning from Galveston, Texas, has been Debbie Andrews. Debbie, thank you so much, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.